What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode 61 of Tighten Up the Dog Pound. I'm Big Mike. You can find me on Twitter at big_Mike9169. And Tighten Up the Dog Pound is also on Twitter at Tighten_Dog21. Last episode I did, I was alone. I was scared. I frankly did not know what to do. So I panicked and just put an episode together, threw it out there, and I was immediately disappointed once I did because it's just not the same without my co-host. And he's here looking just taller and handsome than ever. Thomas, welcome back. A lot of Titans news to get to. How you doing, buddy?
Don't worry, Daddy's home. Daddy's home. I tell you what, man, a lot of news breaking today, and I just think we just need to kick it off with the biggest news of the day. A big addition to one of our teams. The Cleveland Browns have signed Rams kicker Lucas Haveris to a reserves future contract. And that's the episode, ladies and gentlemen.
Honestly, one of the best moves that Andrew Berry's ever made. And if he doesn't get extended tomorrow, it's a total failure by the Haslams. So, but yeah, great episode, man. I'll see you next week. That's it.
Oh,
Now,
buddy.
all seriousness though, we're like I said, we have a lot of Titan stuff to get to. On the Browns front, it's been pretty quiet. Before we dive into all that, have you been? Haven't seen you in a few weeks. How's life? How's everything up in Knoxville?
I tell you what, we were snowed in, got about 9 inches of snow here at the head household. Roads were covered in ice. It was treacherous out there, buddy. But
Treacherous.
but the snow is starting to melt. We definitely have more visible grass than we do piles of snow.
Yeah.
Things,
Yeah. You guys got more snow than we did. Shit. We got like 6 or 7 here, but as you would imagine, the pugs were not having it, bro. You put them outside and they would just start hobbling around like their paws were numb.
the Goldens, they're all about it.
They loved it.
This is their time to thrive.
Yeah. Yeah. The photos were cute. Um, well, yeah, I'm glad all the snow's gone. It's all melted here. It's 60 degrees and rainy for the next 5 days, so gotta love that. Here in Nashville. But so last time we talked, was before the wild card. Then the Browns got eliminated. Made a few, yeah, I know, which was super disappointing.
What we in the business call a tough scene.
That was a tough scene. I was worried about the Texans, we talked about that, but I didn't think it would be that bad. But our defense just decided to take the day off. Uh, and then, Daddy Flacco did what he could, but back-to-back pick sixes are just never going to be the recipe for winning. Um, but we've moved on. I don't live in the past, so onward and upward. They made a few changes in the on the coaching staff, tight ends coach, running backs coach, and offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt were let go. Now they're looking at other offensive coordinators. Other than that, and the massive signing to the reserves futures contract that you mentioned at the top of the episode, pretty quiet up in Cleveland. There are some awards starting to be handed out. So Myles Garrett, Pro Football Writers of America, won Defensive Player of the Year, which is usually a pretty good sign of who's going to win AP Defensive Player of the Year. So that should be coming. Still feel good about Kevin Stefanski's Coach of the Year adventure because all that stuff is voted on before the playoffs. So can't really take the playoffs into account. Otherwise, you'd almost say D'Amico Ryans. But um, yeah. Before we dive into Titan stuff, because like I said, that's about it for the Browns. Like you're just kind of waiting for offensive coordinators. We've interviewed Ken Dorsey and a few
And
guys.
Dorsey.
Yeah,
Oh man, that guy.
Brown's legend. Honestly, like like I wouldn't hate the hire, but I wouldn't love it either if they hired him. He wasn't like dog shit with the Bills. I mean, he was kind of scapegoated a little bit by Josh Allen's turnovers, is what a lot of people seem to think. But he is kind of a hothead, and I just don't know about that marriage. I think they're just doing like a due diligence situation. I really like Zach Robinson, and then
Oklahoma State legend, Zach
yeah,
Robinson.
seventh round pick by the Patriots, I believe. And then the name that has emerged in the last few days is Gerard Johnson, I think, from Houston
Oh,
Texans. Is that I'm blanking. I know his last name's Johnson.
Texans quarterback coach.
Yeah, yeah, because apparently the work he did with CJ Stroud is enticing, and he was a pass game coordinator there, and he was fully endorsed by Watson and Watson's current quarterbacks coach, I think Quincy Avery, who's he's a character. But either way, it seems like that may be an option that is getting more popular by the day. So keeping an eye on that. I personally would love to see Zach Robinson. I wrote an article about it. I think he would be a good fit, but we'll see what they do. More importantly, ladies and gentlemen, the Titans have themselves a new head coach, Brian Callahan.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
We got him. How you
We got
feeling?
him.
What is your what is your initial reaction?
I was so hyped because mainly because I was terrified that we were going to hire Dan Quinn because there were some there were some rumblings that he was getting brought in for a second interview.
Right.
And then there were rumblings before that Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn had an inside track to get the head coaching job. Which I mean, I don't know how Aaron Glenn's going to turn out to be a head coach once he eventually gets that job, but I really, given how things went with Mike Vrabel, I really wanted to go away from a defensive minded head coach because what ultimately matters with Brian Callahan or whoever the head coaching hire was going to be is the development and the success of William Donovan Levis.
Cut to the photo of you standing on the Brooklyn Bridge while raining. That's all I think about whenever we talk about Will Levis.
We've come a long way since then. Feels like a lifetime ago.
So you're saying you're not the same person you were back then? Is that a Will
I
Levis jersey you have on right now?
I am not. No, this is a pre Nike sponsorship. Tennessee Titans, old Tennessee Titans, Taylor Lewan jersey. I've
Wow.
had this jersey since 2017. I really just put it on because I wanted to make sure I didn't get too fat for this jersey.
That's always nice to put on clothes that are
Not
like
only
five
and
years
not
old.
only am I a different person since the Brooklyn Bridge photo back in late April of this year, I'm definitely a different person than I was in 2017. We've added on a few pounds since then. And I just had to make sure I didn't add on too many.
It's okay to
Late,
add a few as long as it still fits.
still, hey, it still fits. It's still a little loose,
Okay, okay. I love it. I love it.
so we're doing good. But no, I am beyond hype about this hire. It fits in with the vision that Amy has been laying out over the last 12 months in terms of being a forward-thinking organization, incorporating analytics, bringing in a guy like Rand Carthon from San Francisco, bringing in like a Chad Brinker from Green Bay, Anthony Richardson to help move forward that vision. Brian Callahan, big analytics guy, loves to reference things like EPA in his interviews.
Oh boy.
So,
That's
dude,
awesome,
we're
dude.
excited. And more importantly, I mean, you're talking about all these changes to the Browns offensive coaching staff. There's one more that needs to be made. Just
Sir,
one more.
sir, that's enough.
Bill Callahan, you
No.
are a Tennessee Titans assistant.
He yeah, I mean, we're all collectively terrified that he's going to be stolen away, but there was a report yesterday that he most likely is going to stay with the Browns. Um he's one of I don't know if I'd have to go find the report, but he's one of the highest paid like assistant coaches or whatever in the NFL, and the Browns will probably throw more money at him to stay. What I think is that he stays with the Browns at least this year, and then he could come to the Titans next year because I would imagine that, barring an 0-17 season, that Brian Callahan will be with the Titans for a few years. So it's not like there won't be an opportunity for him to coach with him. But yes, it is a little nerve wracking because he means a lot. I mean, he's the best offensive line coach in the NFL. He would come in, and I know you know this. He would come in there and like make someone's out of nobody's on your offensive line. I mean, that's part of the reason we sustained success through the end of the season. Jerron Christensen at left tackle, like who even is that? He had a 70 plus pro football focus grade he looked better than Jedrick Wills half the time, you know? So yeah, I really hope you guys don't take him, but I would understand. It would be a tough time in Berea if he ends up going away.
It would be tough, yes. Just to jump in on that, Connor Orr of Sports Illustrated also does not think Bill Callahan will be joining his son, mainly because the Browns can block him from leaving.
Damn. Well, respect, and also that's kind of fucked up, but whatever. It's a business. As long as he stays in Cleveland, that's all I care about.
It's an evil world we live in,
It
Michael.
is.
It's an evil world, but no, I'm excited about this. I'm excited about this hire. I mean, he didn't call plays in Cincinnati, but interviews with Zach Taylor, he's talked about how important he is in basically structuring the offense, making third down calls. Um, Big guy on Bengals Twitter, Joe Goodberry, had a super long tweet about everything he's contributed in terms of how he's over the years has changed the offense to fit his players, which is almost just the polar opposite of what Mike Vrabel has done. And we can get to that later because I don't know if you've heard the former Titans linebacker Wesley Woodyard was hopping on the radio yesterday and today, just going scorched earth on Vrabel. And so
I want you to shed some more light on that because on our Tighten Up the Dog Pound Twitter play page at Titan underscore dog 21, shameless plug. Once again, I saw so much Titans and Vrabel content being pumped out this morning, like people with all their takes on it, and it seems like the opinion on him is changing rapidly. From what I was seeing from some people, so I definitely want you to explain that a little bit more because I've not had time to read all about it.
absolutely, we will definitely get to that later.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
essentially, incorporated a lot of LSU's offense into what the Bengals do to help develop Joe Burrow. Um, with their offensive line changing parts, really adjusted the run game to what fits those players well as well. So dude, I'm stoked.
so you
Like
have
it,
you have to imagine this helps the whole T. Higgins to Nashville agenda.
it sure. I mean, honestly, my prediction, I don't think he's going to end up in Tennessee this year. I think the Bengals are going to franchise tag him.
Yeah, that is probably more likely, but it's exciting to think about regardless. I do think that even if it's not this year, there's always next year, in free agency, as they say.
No,
Um,
I'll never forget when I watched him play in high school. He was bigger than me.
yeah, I remember you saying that.
I'm a tall, thick boy,
Yeah,
so
Thomas is
I
6'9", everyone, so that's a big boy.
dude, I wish.
So we briefly talked about your wish list of head coaching candidates before this hiring happened. So, like, where exactly was Brian Callahan on the tiers? Because I know you really like Bobby Slowick. Um, so like, was he like your next best choice behind him, or was it about equal?
Yeah, I would say tier one was Slowick, Callahan. I liked Frank Smith out of Miami, and then as this progressed, I really started to warm up to Mike McDonald, the defensive coordinator for the Ravens as well.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I would say bottom end of tier one, kind of bordering tier two. But I mean, he's a guy that he's grown up in football. Obviously, with his dad being he was a head coach, took the Raiders to the Super Bowl, just
Yeah.
grew up around football, getting high praise from guys like Peyton Manning, Matt Stafford. I mean, obviously big in the development of Joe Burrow, which is going to be huge for Will Levis. So I'm just stoked, man.
So
After so many years of watching the Titans play caveman football, from the Jeff Fisher years to Mike Munchak to exotic smash mouth with Malarkey, and then just God bless Vrabel. He did a lot of good for us, but it was just constantly like you can't win on offense. You just have to like drag the other team into the mud, and then hopefully you can scrape out like a 17-16 win.
yeah, well, that's what I was about to say. Obviously not a Titans fan, but have been around Titans football my whole life, being from Nashville, have worked Titans games. Not, I feel like so many of the games I watched growing up or have worked are always like what you just said. It's like not necessarily ugly football, but it's like there's no high flying Titans offense that's going to put up 30 or 40 points every week, or it's always like 14 to 13 wins, 20 to 19, 21. Not every game, of course, but it is way, like, especially with Vrabel, it was more of that, yeah, like very physical, defense, then don't turn the ball over, play action, run the ball with Derrick Henry. I mean, you can win like that. I mean, you guys obviously did. You got pretty far a few times, but it is exciting to think you're going to have a whole different kind of offense, analytical coach. You know, you would imagine it probably won't all come right away, but I mean, you guys could be that type of offense in the next year or two that is exciting to watch, that everyone's talking about, that Will Levis to T. Higgins connection. It's what we need.
I
But no,
hope
that's
so. It's
cool.
it,
It's a
it's
whole,
more
it's
more
such,
more likely going to be the Will Levis to Tyler Boyd connection.
yeah. We got T. Higgins at home, Tyler Boyd. Yeah, so uh honestly, from the outside looking in, when I saw the hiring, I was like, like that's a good choice. It's very different from Vrabel, and I think that that's kind of what's needed right now, especially with what you guys are doing with Carthon and everything, like what he's doing in terms of the type of team he's building and whatnot. So I'm excited to see what they do. Free agency, all that stuff, you know.
Dude,
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with copying other people's success.
yeah. I mean, it's a copycat league, dude.
It really is. Like,
Stefanski talks about it all the time. He's like, yeah, no one's original in this league. This league, no one's original in this league. Everyone copies everyone, so it's just what it is.
oh man. And then the quote from Amy Adams Strunk this morning, this is not my father's NFL.
Yeah,
It just feels like we're getting out of like this like 1980s run pass punt
yeah.
type of football that I have watched since I was 9 years old.
I saw that quote and was just like, okay, adapt with the times. I love it. Um,
It is. You got to be adjustable. You can't be too rigid. And I think that was a big part of Vrabel's downfall is his my way or the highway. And then like, that doesn't always work. When you're that head coach, CEO type of guy, your players are kind of like your employee. Like you have new people coming in and out because there's always going to be turnover, whether it's that or any other kind of job.
right.
And I mean, yeah, like you have to have your structure and then you kind of have to have your philosophy that you consistently follow and instill in people. But at the same time, you've got to be flexible to the people you have coming in as people leave. Because at the end of the day, the only job that matters is success, winning. And then when that stops and that's not happening, and then you win 6 out of 24 games, it may not be 100% your fault, but you can't say you didn't have a part to play in it. And
Yeah.
your ass is gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a tough business regardless. It's a
It's
results driven.
cutthroat.
Yeah, it's results driven and you can be on top of the world one week or one season and then, packing your bags the next. Um, Speaking of Vrabel real fast before we dive into some of the other stuff we were touching on, he obviously hasn't ended up anywhere yet as a head coach. Didn't go to the Patriots like we both predicted. Um,
Gerard Mayo, baby, go Vols.
yeah, apparently that was deep in his contract already, which is pretty wild. Um, so knowing that he is a guy who wants, so much control and whatnot with the options that are left out there, like where do you think he ends up? Like Seattle? I mean, he's
I
not
don't
going to
know,
be able to
man.
be the GM. It's weird. I don't know where he's going to go.
He may not end up anywhere.
Yeah, he may take a year off, you think, or he'll be a
Honestly,
coordinator.
honestly, I think he's not gonna get a job this cycle because it looks like Harbaugh to the Chargers is
LA. Yeah.
just about penciled in. Um, I don't think he wants to go to the Panthers, which the Panthers haven't interviewed him yet or anything, but it seems like the guy that's going to go there is I can't think of his name, but the Bucks offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I can't think of it either, but I know who
And
you're
then
talking about.
who does that leave? Just the Seahawks and Falcons? I mean,
Seahawks
may,
are maybe,
the
but
Seahawks and Falcons both interviewed him, but they're still kind of churning guys out. There was a report yesterday that Belichick to the Falcons is losing steam,
it
but
is. But from what I read is Arthur Blank wants Belichick, but a lot of people in the front office do not want Belichick. So there's a power struggle going on because obviously if you bring him in, they're all going to be out of a job. A lot of them will. Um, Plus, there's a history there. I think I don't know. I I I feel like no one wants to coach the Panthers. The Panthers don't even need to be like an NFL team at this point. Um, Seattle's the only one that I keep coming back to that I could see. But once again, he's not going to go there and be able to have the control that he seems to want. That option was uh New England, and that one went away almost immediately. So very interesting to see what happens there. Uh, so do you have anything else regarding Callahan, or do you want to talk a little Vrabel, former stuff with Vrabel that has been coming out since he left?
I mean, one last thing on the assistant front. So Zach Pillar, former Titans offensive lineman back from the Fisher McNair era, was on 105, 104.5, or is either earlier this week or late last week. He did state that Mike Munchak does want to come back to Tennessee to be an offensive line coach. Like if the
Wow,
Titans offered him the job, he would take it in a heartbeat.
interesting.
So if we
I,
can't get Bill Callahan, bring. I mean, Mike, he's in the Ring of Honor from his,
yeah,
Oiler days because, Houston Oiler history is the Tennessee Titans history, and we own those throwbacks. And
here we go.
Sean can cry about it all he wants, but
I
they're
don't
ours,
think
baby.
Sean hasn't stopped crying since birth. I'm convinced.
Oh man, but that's about the only other nugget I have got on the Callahan front. So
So
it's a new day. It's exciting.
give it a grade. A, B, C, D, F,
We're gonna go A minus.
A minus. I was gonna say B plus just because I don't have all the insider stuff that you do, but I on the surface it seems like a good hire for sure. You won't know for another year or two. But we've seen countless times things can turn around in 1 year. You guys could be right back in the thick of it in the AFC South because the South is, I mean, the Texans are definitely emerging there, as maybe the team to beat. The Jags, no clue. Honestly, they really fell apart.
I tell you what, my preseason take of the Jags falling off. It was looking rough when they were 8-3, but
Yeah, you got bailed
God,
out.
it came through for me. It came through for me.
And then the Colts, they seem like they could be good when Richardson comes back, but there's still a lot of unknowns. So it's almost like not a division that's completely up for grabs, but you guys could make some, you could turn it around in 1 year for sure if you do it right. So it seems to be a step in the right direction.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how the Texans go forward especially if they lose Bobby Slowick, because that's going to be the real test for D'Amico Ryans is how do you replace your offensive coordinator
Yeah.
that developed CJ Stroud, and can getting success is one thing, maintaining success, it's a whole nother business, baby.
Yep. It's hard. I mean, if he loses Slowick and like Johnson to the Browns, for example, those are two key like offensive coaches that help develop Stroud that won't be there. So,
Yeah, just as quickly as you can rise up, you can crash and burn just as quick.
yep. Um, well, cool. A minus, B plus on the grade. I feel like it's a solid hire all the way around. Um, I'm ready to hear some of the stuff about Vrabel. It seems like
I,
it's not super great. Like, has it changed your opinion on him a
I
little
mean,
bit?
a little bit, but I mean, some of it is stuff that so this is not the first time Wesley Woodyard has trashed Mike Vrabel like this. He, eh, I can't remember when the first time it was. It was probably about 2 or 3 years ago. And a lot of us, including myself, just kind of wrote it off as like just a bitter ex-employee because he was on the team in 2019, the AFC Championship game run, and then wasn't brought back because, he was an aging veteran. So a lot of us wrote it off as, oh, this is just like an aging veteran who lost his job to the young guys who's just bitter. And I
Yep.
and I do still think that's true for the most part. And then a lot of these, former players that kind of come out and, have these heavy criticisms of Vrabel are guys that had their own issues, like him, Monty Rice, Tierre Tart. So you have to take some of it with a grain of salt, but I don't think it's completely like I'm not blowing this off either.
Okay.
So he went on the 3HL yesterday, which I still have not listened to that yet because I was at work when that aired, and I've read some nuggets on what other people said about it, and then I listened to his interview this morning on the Ramon Kalen Will show on 104.5 The Zone. So just some nuggets of things I noted down from what he said this morning. So the first thing he said, which I think it almost more of an indictment on Woodyard than it is Vrabel. But he said himself and multiple guys in the locker room, particularly on defense, during the 2019 AFC Championship game run, were nervous about winning the Super Bowl because they thought it would make Vrabel's bad habits even worse, particularly his ego. Because
Hmm.
apparently he's a kind of an egomaniac, and they thought, man, if we win the Super Bowl, that is going to make him so much more worse to deal with.
That's an interesting.
It's an interesting thing to think when you're in the
Yeah.
midst of a Super Bowl run.
Yeah, you shouldn't be thinking about that. You should just be thinking about winning I don't know, the biggest game of your fucking life. That's weird.
Um, and then sticking, and some of this is so like this has been no knowledge that in the AFC Championship game, Vrabel took away play calling duties from Dean Pease and took it over himself in a game that we proceeded to blow a 17-7 lead, losing 35-24.
Yikes.
Leading up, this was post Baltimore win, preparing for Kansas City. Dean Pease and Mike Vrabel, which do you know anything about Dean Pease before I get into this? Like
Not
his
not a whole
background
lot.
before he came. So he was the Ravens defensive coordinator for a long time. And I'll need to double check this, but I'm 95% sure he was on the Super Bowl winning team. But he is a very well respected coach throughout the league, a great defensive mind. At this point, he's in his, when he's coaching the Titans, he's in his 70s. So as they're prepping for that game, he and Vrabel get into a verbal altercation in front of the players. That happens. Then later that day, he has a meeting with their typical like, hey, we're going over our game plan defensive meeting. He starts off the meeting by apologizing to the players for how he acted in that altercation, basically saying, hey, like, we had a disagreement, but I felt like I myself was unprofessional. That's a bad example to set, yada, yada, yada. In the midst of him addressing the team, having this bonding moment with this apology, Vrabel apparently storms into the room and just completely takes over the meeting. And that
Damn.
rubbed a lot of players the wrong way. And then of course you see the defensive performance later that week is
It did affect it. Yeah. Yeah.
so that happened. After so Vrabel gets hired after we fire Mike Mularkey, who was coming off of a playoff win that the Mariota Magic game in Kansas City.
Oh yeah, where he passed the ball that ricocheted to himself and he scored.
Yep.
Classic. That was good.
Um, in one of his first meetings with the team, he trashes Mike Mularkey, starts trashing some of the veterans, saying that there's like a sense of that the Titans have a sense of entitlement, specifically trashing Brian Arakpo, Jarrell Casey, and that rubbed a lot of guys the wrong way.
Yeah, that's a risky thing to do when you come in and take over because you have to imagine that some of the players still like and or respect the former coach. It's not like it was a Hugh Jackson situation where everyone was throwing parties.
Yeah, I mean it wasn't like the Titans were coming off like a 3-13
Yeah.
season. Like we had won a playoff game.
Yeah. That's the ego coming, like you mentioned the ego. That I feel like that's some of that his arrogance coming into play a little bit.
And then just overall kind of said that, Vrabel he gave more credit to the coaches than he did the players in terms of highlighting success, that it was, the coaches drawing things up instead of the players going out there and succeeding. Felt like, and I brought this up earlier, and this is, I think something that has been kind of out there amongst Titans fans, that he was, he's just a very rigid guy, my way or the highway, doesn't really adjust well to his players or their skill set. Also said that he went way too hard in practice, overworked guys, and he feels like that's what resulted
The
in a lot of the
injuries.
injuries over
Yep.
the last few years. And then there are guys who just didn't succeed with the Titans that just went on, like Josh Reynolds. Dude could barely get on the field in Tennessee because and part of that's because Vrabel has this crazy affection for special teams. Like Kyle Phillips was like a healthy scratch for like the last month of the season. He's like, well, like we can't really use him on special teams, so like I'm not going to have him on the active roster. And there
Yeah.
was a lot of that with Josh Reynolds as well, that were like he barely saw the field. Well, now he's been tearing it up in Detroit for the last. When I say tearing it up, it's not like he's having 1,000 yard seasons, but like he's a contributor. Like he's scoring touchdowns in the playoffs for him.
Yeah.
Same with Khalif Raymond. Adoree Jackson, a guy who, like, towards the end of his time with the Titans was struggling with injuries. He and Vrabel didn't get along, so they let him go.
Yep.
It's been doing great with the New York Giants. David Long Jr. was called a repeat offender last offseason by Mike Vrabel in terms of his soft tissue injuries. Hasn't had an injury in Miami. It's been great for them this season.
Those are all very eye-opening observations.
So they're
I think you're onto something.
yeah. So I mean that.
Seriously.
So I mean that there are examples of that, and then like it wouldn't shock me at all if Christian Fulton, who's had a similar injury history to David Long in terms of his time with the Titans, goes on to another team and is just like a solid penciled in starter for them.
Yeah.
So
You know who was similar to that? Freddie Kitchens 2019 season. He was like so about the special teams thing as well. Like, remember Rashard Higgins? 2019 season, he was like a healthy scratch almost for a lot of the season. He had like 8 catches all season because he didn't want to play special teams. He wanted to play receiver. And then he leaves in the next year where we go to the playoffs. Higgins has like 6 touchdown catches and like 600 yards so like some of that stuff, some of those decisions that coaches going back to you saying how just like my way or the highway, it's like he's not going to budge or change and adapt. And you do need a coach that has certain qualities or philosophies that they stick to, but also can change and adapt and be open to collaboration or just adapting as the league changes. That's one thing that so many Browns fans love about Stefanski is that he is constantly like he wants to bring people in to help him be a better coach. He doesn't think he's the best coach, which seems like maybe Vrabel kind of was the opposite of that, which can be good while it's working to an extent, and then when it's not, it can get bad. So,
yeah. So just got some breaking news here
oh shit,
as we were talking about the Carolina Panthers.
another futures contract? What?
The Carolina Panthers are set to interview Mike Vrabel after we just talked.
You can't write that. Yeah.
You really
So
can't.
so okay. Now that that's happening, let me just say this. With how desperate the Panthers seem to be in terms of just like turning it around and getting the most out of Bryce Young, which I wouldn't credit Vrabel too much if he was the coach there of getting the most out of Bryce Young because he's a defensive coach. But I feel like Vrabel could walk in and be like, here's my resume. I've been to the playoffs. Give me full control of the team. You think they would go for it?
I wouldn't put. Well, I mean,
The
they
owner
just
just seems like a dipshit, though.
they just hired a guy to be their GM, so I don't
Well, he could be like a puppet, though. You know what I mean? Yeah.
possibly. I mean, yeah, I could see David Tepper doing that.
Yeah, he just seems like a dipshit. I don't know.
And then one more note on the Woodyard interview, just another like
Yeah.
random anecdote that rubbed players the wrong way. So Vrabel did not allow players to bring their kids to the facility, but he would constantly bring his own kids.
I saw you tweet something funny about that. Like that he can't keep getting away with this about
Yeah,
him bringing
random practice squad fifth string linebacker brings his daughter to the facility. Mike
just
Vrabel, he can't keep getting away with
it's so
this.
funny. That yeah.
So, and again, I think there are some things that like some of the anecdotes are like they're way too specific to be not true.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the overall thing, like I think some of it is like bitter ex player who got mad he got cut is trying to take his victory lap and probably exaggerating some of the details. But it's
Yeah.
all not like dishonest either. Like with all these things, the answer is always somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's two sides to every story, but at the same time, I feel like there's a lot of truth to what's being said. And some of it is probably a little blown out proportion or perceived differently just from players that had a vendetta against him regardless.
Yeah. And that's also not to say that Vrabel's a bad coach, but these are some very obvious personality and character flaws that really put a ceiling on what your success can be as a head coach. And Vrabel's not an idiot. Like, and I'm hopefully for his own personal success, he can be a little self-aware, tinker with those things a little bit, and he will probably be more successful if he does. But
Well said, Dr. Thomas Head.
it's what I'm here for.
Yeah, that's it. That's the show. See you next week. Well, do you have any final thoughts about Vrabel and or Callahan, which I think we've touched on most of the Callahan stuff, before we move on to the conference championship predictions?
Don't focus too much on Mike Vrabel. The past is in the past. The old times are the old times. Don't stop thinking about your ex-girlfriend. Move on.
Move on,
Brighter,
everyone.
brighter days are ahead. I am genuinely excited about the Tennessee Titans' future. I'm ready to see Rand Carthon cook. Thought he had a good offseason last year in player acquisition. We have the second most cap space in the NFL to work with this year. We've got more draft picks to work with this year. We've got the offensive minded head coach. We are committed to this vision to be the Tennessee 49ers. This is an exciting time to be a Titans fan. I I'm I just can't wait. I'm so hyped right now. To
You got
quote
chill.
Kevin Garnett,
You got chills right now, huh?
to quote Kevin Garnett, anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Let's go.
Yeah. Well said there. Titans fans, I think you have a lot to be excited about. Browns fans as well, just because we're a very successful, well-run organization already, so we don't have to go through all this,
Traditionally, always have been
Traditional.
our
Yeah.
entire, especially since the comeback in 1999 till today.
Yeah, there really haven't been that many issues when you really think about it. So,
Couldn't agree more.
no,
Speaking of the
totally.
Browns, Michael, I've got some breaking news here. The Cleveland
Another
Browns have hired Deuce Staley as their new running backs coach.
Yeah, that's something I forgot to touch on whenever we were talking about the Browns shakeup, that they offered him the position I think 2 days ago. And I guess he officially accepted it. That's a solid hire though. It's definitely very different from Stump Mitchell, so I'm excited to see what he can do. The issue that
God,
Stump
first of all, what a that you talk about a football name, Stump.
Yeah, I mean, he's a legend, dude. Like Stump Mitchell, and he has an incredible beard. Um, Honestly, a lot of us liked him. It was a little surprising to see him go, but I think Nick Chubb is like a superstar, and he kind of masked some of the issues in the running back room. I think most people's biggest complaint was, the development of like Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong last year was like minimal. Jerome Ford was pretty much the same running back from week two to to the playoffs. There was no like ascend any kind of ascending trajectory with him. Um, he can't hit the hole. His vision's not super great, and you just would have liked to see a guy improve. So I think that they just wanted to bring someone new in. But yeah, Deuce Staley, awesome. Welcome to the Browns. Um, all right, well, we're almost done here. Just want to get our prediction of conference championship games. I do want to ask, I don't know if you wrote it down, but our initial prediction of the playoffs that we did a few weeks ago.
Oh,
Do you remember it?
I
I
thought you were.
know.
I thought you were about to ask me the preseason.
Oh boy, no. I don't
I,
want to know
I,
what
I
that was
remember what mine were.
during for the preseason or for the
I remember my final four I picked in the preseason very vividly, just because the team I really picked to go far was just so catastrophically wrong.
who were they? I'd have to go back and listen.
My AFC Championship game was Jets Ravens, and my NFC Championship game was Niners Cowboys, and my Super Bowl was Jets Cowboys.
That's right, because we both had the Jets, I think. Because I was
I think you had Jets Eagles. I don't remember who were
Yeah.
your final four, but I think your Super Bowl was Jets Eagles.
Well,
But
I
we
mean,
both picked the Jets.
to be fair, like if Aaron Rodgers' knee didn't explode 4 snaps into the season, we could have been onto something because I think they would have been good, but maybe
Hey,
next year.
I got two out of the four. That's 50. Hey, batting 500. If I were playing in the Major League, MLB, be crushing.
You'd be like Joe Mauer and Todd Helton. Tennessee Vols legend Todd Helton getting inducted to the Baseball Hall of Fame yesterday.
God.
Um, yeah, that I couldn't remember the prediction we did a few weeks ago, so I know I'd picked the Browns. That was over. I did pick the Bucks to upset the Eagles. I think we both did, right? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think we both
Yeah.
picked that. Yeah.
So I mean, we've gotten some right up to this point. I don't remember all of them. Need to write them down from now on.
I'm trying to think who were my final. My AFC Championship game was Chiefs Steelers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you were. for some reason picking the Steelers. Hilarious.
Um, 40. It was 49ers, and I can't remember who did I pick to
It wasn't the Eagles. It wasn't the
because
Bucks.
I picked the Rams to
The
beat the Lions.
Lions?
So it
No.
would no because I picked them to lose to the Rams, and then I
Yeah.
had the Rams losing to the Niners the next week. What would have been? It would have been Bucks. Oh yeah, probably Niners
Packers,
Cowboys. Niners
Cowboys.
Cowboys
Yeah.
again.
Well, it didn't exactly go the way we thought. We were right about a few things. I think we all saw the Philadelphia Eagles collapse coming just from how bad they played. I was a little surprised to see the Lions beat the Rams because the Rams were so hot coming into the postseason. But hey, you gotta love it for the Lions fans out there, man. They get to enjoy being in the championship game for the first time since what, 19, is it 67, 57, something crazy.
It's been a long time. Here's a
Yeah.
little fun stat. Since 1996, there are only two teams in the NFC that have not made the NFC Championship game. Do you know who they are?
Two teams. Uh, Vikings.
Nope, not the Vikings. They played the year the Eagles won the Super Bowl. They beat the Vikings in the
That's
NFC
that's right.
Championship game.
Cowboys.
Cowboys is one of them. Yep.
Yeah. I don't know the other one off the top of my head.
Washington.
Washington. Yeah, that
Really just goes
tracks.
to show you how destitute the Cowboys have been.
I was about to say, yeah,
They've just
people,
committed to
yeah.
mid.
And the fact they're keeping Mike McCarthy, it seems like that's just gross. I
What?
mean, it's definitely a choice. All right, rattle off the games this weekend.
All
We
right, so
have the
we have Chiefs Ravens. This is a tough one for me to pick because I mean I feel like the Ravens are the better team, but I feel like we're watching Mahomes do what Brady did during our childhood, to where it's just like
you can't bet against him, dude.
I know.
It's
Having said
crazy.
that, I'm rooting for the Chiefs, but I think I'm gonna go with the Ravens. In their win over the Bills, Chiefs gave up 182 rushing yards
Not great, Bob.
at
Not
a
going against the
six
Ravens.
plus yards a clip. And
Yeah.
I think that is a bad matchup when you're going to Baltimore.
Yep.
So I'm gonna go with the Ravens 27-24.
Okay. So, of course, despise the Ravens. Uh, very much dislike the Chiefs, but I can't root for the Ravens in this game, even if I do like Lamar Jackson's likable and it really pisses me off. Um, and you got to give credit where credit's due. Like he's played pretty well this year and he stayed healthy. Pretty impressive. He never stays healthy this late. I think to your point about we're seeing Mahomes do what Brady did during our childhood. I think that like you get him to the playoffs and he turns his like hat backwards or like leans up in the chair, like the video game meme. And that's
Mm-hmm.
that's just what he's gonna do. So I think the Chiefs win 31-28. It's
All
gonna
right.
be a very close game. Lamar is gonna like they're gonna eat for sure. But um I think when we did this a few weeks ago, now that I'm remembering, like I had the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again because I just feel like you just get him there and Mahomes can do it. I mean, Pacheco's running really well too. Like he had a good game against the Bills. So it's just wild seeing them go without Tyreek Hill. Like they have Travis Kelsey, who has been kind of a shell of his former self in the last like half of the season, and then just guys who can't catch the ball, and now all of a sudden they're just everything's clicking. So, um,
Except for McCole Hardman.
except for yeah, yeah,
Get ready to learn XFL ease, buddy.
yes. So yeah, Chiefs go to the Super Bowl again.
I hope you're correct. That's the result I'm rooting for. And then
Absolutely.
later that night, Lions at 49ers. 49ers, 7-point home favorites.
What are your we haven't talked about this to a as much of an extent. Do you think Brock Purdy is really good, or do you just think he's the product of the system and the weapons around him? Because I feel like he's kind of a product of the system and weapons a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think he's a solid,
He's solid.
quality quarterback.
It's not saying he's dog shit, but like they looked so different when Debo Samuel went out of the game last week against the Packers. And I just feel like if a team can really figure out how to take away a couple of their weapons, uh, they're beatable, especially against a team like the Lions who are just playing. I feel like the Lions are so determined right now, and I just love it. I'm so here for it. Um,
It's a trap. Don't fall for it's a trap.
ah,
The lie. It's been a good story and they played well, but I think that they lose by double digits on Sunday.
all that being said, yeah, I was gonna say I'm still gonna pick the 49ers just because like they've kind of been the team to get there since in the AFC from the beginning, the team to beat. So, and I mean, we usually don't have Super Bowls of the both one seeds going, right? Or am I just mistaken on that? I feel like it's not that common to have both one seeds.
Typically doesn't
Yeah.
go chalk like that, but yeah, the
So I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I do think it'll be like a 24-17, 24-16, lose by a score type thing where the Lions, Dan Campbell does something stupid, to try to a fake punt in his own end zone or some shit, his own territory. Because that's the thing about him is like I know you agree. Like I think he's a good coach and the players want to play hard for him, but there's just like this trust factor as a fan when I watch a Lions game when I just think like, oh, they're lining up for a field goal to tie the game. Is is he gonna do something dumb? Because I feel like I saw so many times during the season them just kind of during his coaching tenure, them just try things that just is not the smartest thing to do. If you do that in the playoffs, like sometimes that's it. It's over. So
it is. Which hey, I'm going to be rooting for the Lions.
I would love to see them
Out
go.
of all the
Yeah.
four teams left, they have the most Tennessee balls on their team. Cam Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley, and All Pro Clarksville, Tennessee native Jalen Reeves Maven.
Oh boy. What was Hendon Hooker? Did you mention him?
Oh,
Isn't he?
Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
How can I
Yeah.
forget Hendon Hooker?
He's
Back
the
at
future, baby,
who's going to
after
eventually
Goff's
take
gone.
over
Yeah.
for Jared Goff, which I brought, I mentioned this when we were talking about the Texans and D'Amico Ryans and Slowick getting a head coaching job. That's going to be the test for Dan Campbell. Can he keep
Yeah.
the train rolling when Ben Johnson gets his head coaching job? Because he's
Yeah.
definitely getting one.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. The sustaining success thing is very hard. You learn a lot about a coach if they can do it over. That's why, regardless if you want to debate Brady or Belichick, who was like sustaining success for as long as they did is like insane. What the Chiefs are doing, crazy. Like it really is because the Chiefs lost Eric Bieniemy, and a lot of people thought he was the brains behind the opera. Like he was contributing a lot more than he was. But yeah, definitely rooting for the Lions overall to win the Super Bowl, regardless of who they play. But a fellow 0-16 team, fellow tortured fan base, you just have this connection. Uh, and I know you
The
wooldn't get it. You guys
the
were close a
destitute
few times. Yeah.
franchises. God.
Misery loves company. So yeah, definitely it's a good slate. And honestly, like there have been some blowouts in the postseason so far, but there have been some good games. I think both games are going to be good, especially the Ravens Chiefs. I'm very, very, very excited for that one. I think that's going to be like game of the year, possibly. Kind of what we thought the Bills and Chiefs were going to be, which it was a good game. Don't get me wrong, really good. The Damar Hamlin fake punt was something out of a fucking story that should have never been told. I don't know what he was thinking. Like, if this works, it'll be talked about forever. God forbid they just run a quarterback sneak with Josh Allen. I mean, come on.
Of course, at the beginning of the game, got away with a blatant forward pass
Yeah. Yeah.
across the line
I,
of scrimmage.
I thought that's just Andy Reid not challenging that. Is so Andy Reid in the playoffs. he just he has some tendencies. But
God, what a season!
what a season. We're almost at the
Almost,
end. It makes me sad.
it's almost over.
Yeah. All right, well, that's gonna do it for us. I think it's been good catching back up. Very exciting time for Titans fans. This is that time as a Browns fan know very much where you hire a new coach you get excited about and you just like you start talking yourself into everything. You start getting excited about it, what it can be. So if you're a Titans fan, from an outside looking in perspective, soak it up right now. This is one of the best parts whenever you hire a guy that you have a really good feeling about or you like. you just start thinking like, we could do this, we could get this player, this is how it's going to look. Oh, I can't wait to see who they're going to bring in. And that's just like a fun thing to theorize about as it all comes together. If you're a Browns fan out there and you're still depressed from the Texans loss, I 100% am with you. Still very sad, but Flacco fever will never be forgotten.
Fire
He
up those
said,
mock drafts, baby.
yeah, he said he was open to coming back to being the Browns backup. So
How about the
we'll see.
starter?
There it is. Hey, we'll see if it's week 3 or week 4 and Watson's throwing for 175 yards and a touchdown and 3 picks a game.
Dude, he's gonna have a lot of pressure on him next year.
Oh, it's going to be massive, dude. Yeah. Um, which I do want us to talk about that more in other episodes. I know we will. Um, yeah, because I have a lot of thoughts about it. Especially Andrew Berry had a press conference yesterday, it's either yesterday or 2 days ago, where he talked a lot about Watson. And yeah, we just got to have the same conversation again. Knock the rust off, get him back to what he was. And we were seeing glimpses of it this past season, but we just need to see a full season of it, and then it'll be done.
Whose
Move
name
on.
will get added to the back of the jersey next season?
I'm ready to move on from that jersey. We're a different team now. Playoffs 2 times in 4 years. Had 2-time coach of the year. We're not the factory of sadness anymore.
Whoa, two-time head. He hasn't won it yet.
He's gonna win it.
He probably will.
Yeah, I think he's gonna win it. But all right, it's been fun. Tighten up the dog pound once again. Twitter, Titan_dog21. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Recently launched a YouTube channel. Very excited. Gonna put some content out there. Yeah, yeah. So if you search Tighten Up the Dog Pound on YouTube, go find our channel. It's not a whole lot of content there right now, but we have some plans in the works, hopefully to just to get more content out there because we just are obsessed with football. So thanks for listening. Big Mike signing off. Leave the rest to my co-host Thomas Head.
Sun is rising, Titans fans. Get excited. Get hype. Tighten up.
Go Browns.